presentation. We've had some computer problems here, but we've got it all worked out. We've got Don Shapiro here in person to do this. And so this is going to be a wonderful night. We are going to talk about family relationships and support. Don Shapiro is our board president, the chair of our board. He works for CYFD, our Children, Youth, and Family Department. He has been in working with teenagers and young people his entire adult life. I won't say how many years. I'll let Don share that. He started a wonderful program in New York City. Then he came to New Mexico, and he's working in transition, helping youth get out of our juvenile facilities and helping them get back on their feet. He is a wonderful man, and I'm so happy he's with us tonight. Welcome with me, Don Shapiro.
Hello, it's just a great pleasure to be here. So happy to see you all. Anybody was wondering, what's he wearing on his head? I'm wearing an Ethiopian cap because it's Black History Month, and I thought I would honor that. Anyway, I think all I need to know is how to move the slides here, and I think I'll be fine. Let me just figure that out. Anne's going to show me.
Just
how do
use
I?
your button. Just use
Oh, that button right there. Great. Those of you who were here last month know that we began a program, which we're doing the last Monday of every month, hopefully, called Developmental Relationships. If you've been a Wings fan or come to Wings in the past, you know that we have our programs based on the 40 developmental assets, and that's from Search Institute. And every time we meet, we pick some of those assets, and we focus our class on them. The developmental assets are a little bit different, as you'll see. So let's try this out and see how it goes. I'm clicking the button, but it's not working. Okay. Let's see what's happening here. Oh, it should be working. No. Okay, guys. Slideshow is supposed to start, but it's not starting. We talked last time about the developmental element of providing care, expressing care. And tonight we're going to be talking about providing support. I'm going to ask my technician if he can help me, or she, but I can't get the slide to move to the next slide. Not sure why. Let's see if I use my cursor maybe. There it goes. All right, it's somehow started to work. If you remember the developmental assets, the ones that we're focusing on today are about family support. And here we have family provides high levels of support. Asset 2 is that positive family communication. Young people and their parents communicate positively, and the young person seeks advice and counsel from the adults in their home. Asset 3 has to do with other adult relationships. Counselors, could be grandparents, it could be neighbors, it could be adults in school and teachers, people in the community, somebody's employer. And we're going to talk about how the young person receives 3 or more non-parent adults, receives 3 or more supportive adults in their life. Okay, here we go. Now, last week, as you remember, we talked about expressing care. And from the young person's point of view, the young person was thinking, show me that I matter to you. Whatever you do, I want to matter to you. I want to know that you care about me. The second one, provide support, which we'll focus on today, is help me complete tasks and achieve my goals. As you can see from our slide, hopefully, challenging growth, sharing power, expanding possibilities will be the topics of our next few months. This is working, I think, so let's see if I can get this to work again. Okay. We have a little bit of a video, and if it doesn't work, we'll skip it, but I think we can get it to work. One moment. Oops, sorry. Okay. There we go. See if it pops up. So far, so good. Here we go. Hey. Okay, this is from Search Institute, and he's going to talk about providing support. It's not coming? Okay, I'll skip the video, okay? Go to the next slide. Sorry about that. Okay. Oops. I lost my slideshow. How? Oh, I see. Right there. There we go. I got it now. Okay, I can probably cover what the gentleman was going to cover. So when we talk about providing support, think about this. When I needed you, in other words, this is the question that we hear so often from young people. I needed my mom, I needed my dad, I needed my teacher, I needed my friend, I needed my counselor. And when I needed them, they were there for me. A big part of being a family is helping each other out when it's needed. How do we do it? We do it by offering practical help. We do it by building confidence in one another. And we also do it by keeping each other on track, making sure that we're headed in the right direction. Oh, can you see me now? Okay, I'll stand up. How's that? Is that better? Okay. I was enjoying this nice chair, but I'm young enough to stand. I'll be okay. Okay, how do we do it? We build each other's confidence, we said, and we keep people on track. Also, we're more likely to grow, or a young person is more likely to grow and accomplish their goals when we know, I'm sorry, I've got to move this video thing out of the way. There we go. Okay, when we know others in our family are there to support us, helping us navigate difficult times, and we're in some difficult times, as you know, with COVID, empowering us rather than taking over and doing stuff for us. We have a kind of a rule of thumb in counseling where we work with people. We don't do things to people. We work on things with people. Today we're going to talk about the ways that we can support each other. So let's look at that. And this complements pretty much what we learned last week about expressing care. Okay. Providing support has 4 parts, okay? And it's really about guiding people to complete the tasks and achieve the goals that they have. One of them is called navigate, and that's to guide people through hard situations and systems. Just like you have a navigator in your vehicle sometimes and it tells you which way to turn, we navigate. As an adult, we also empower. We want to build confidence so that people can take charge of their own lives. Today, we're going to talk about the element of advocating, standing up for people when they need it. We'll also talk more about support in that context. And finally, setting boundaries, putting limits in place that keeps people on track. Okay, support. What's the right amount of support? Everybody needs other people to help them. I know that I have, and I'm sure you have too at times. And there were times when we said, leave me alone, I can do this myself, okay? But when children are young, they really depend on parents and other adults, caring adults, to feed them, bathe them, express care in every way, teach them what it means to be an adult, etc. When children reach the teen years, their needs for support change, but they don't go away. Sometimes it's a challenge. Okay, sometimes it's a challenge to find the right balance of having others support us and being on our own. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. You can't answer it directly right now, but I'll ask it you and we'll see if I can provide you with some responses. Has someone you know been directly affected by COVID-19 pandemic? Examples might be illness, transportation, isolation from friends, loss of a job, problems with small businesses, recreation, attending school, even quarantining. If you see our little picture down here, we're giving people ghost hugs. I'm doing that to my crew right now. A ghost hug is a kind of a virtual hug. We're not actually touching them. You can't feel it, but it's really there. Okay, so some ways that you and your family can offer the right amount of support during this difficult time. Let's talk about illness. I have a friend right now, a colleague who's in the hospital with COVID, and he can't do very much, and I can't visit him. They're not allowing people to come because of safety measures. So what am I doing? Sending cards. I've been able to find out that he has a cell phone, so I've been able to call him a couple of times a week when he's feeling okay, and we get to talk and chat and offer support. Isolation. Many people have complained or been concerned about the fact, especially young people, that they're not seeing their friends. They're not out there playing ball. They're not necessarily in school, although some schools are open, but they feel isolated. Adults are also having that experience. I've been working from home for 10 months, and sometimes I feel a little bit isolated myself. What can we do? Well, a couple of things. One of the things we can do with isolation is we can use our technology. We can use Zoom. We have telephones, don't forget. We still use the telephone, to talk to people. Not everything is a virtual thing. We have FaceTime. We can write letters. There are many, many ways that we can communicate and try to break the isolation that people experience. Some people are able to create social distance, wear a mask and go out in the community and actually do some stuff. We did that with Wings. We had a treasure hunt. We had a gift giving during the holidays where people were able to come out in their cars and, see us face to face, mask to mask. Small business struggles. We know that small businesses are having trouble and need a lot of support. A friend of mine who works for sports systems, you may know of them, they sell a lot of winter sports equipment, have purchased hundreds of gift cards for different restaurants. And if you would like to buy a gift card, you can do that. You can do it online, carry it on your phone, and you can go to a restaurant and support that small business or a shop, or it could be a barber shop, for example. Okay, how do we provide support? There are some ways that moms, dads, and other adults can provide support to their kids. One way is offering information, practical help to solve problems, or lend them something that they may need. I have a friend of mine who's been asking me if he could borrow my guitar. Doesn't have his guitar anymore. And so I said, sure, I'll find a way to get it to you. Also, show young people how to ask for help when they need it. What's the way to ask for help? Think about when you ask someone for help. What do you do? Are we respectful? Are we kind? We've learned a lot about table manners at Wings, but those manners apply, to even asking for help. I know for me, the first thing is to get somebody's attention, make sure that they're able to listen, that they're not doing something else, and then say, hey, I was just wondering, I'm having a little bit trouble right now with my computer. I'm trying to zoom in from my home for tonight's Wings thing. And my wife just came home that very, very moment she was out, and she heard me struggling, and she came up immediately and said, what's going on? And I said, Rita, I need some help. Can you see if you can get this working? So we do it politely. We use respect. I also, she was kind enough to come over and approach me, and she saw my face looking crazy, like something was wrong. Ultimately, she said, get in the car and go there, do it live. So here I am. Shift levels of support is another way. Be a coach. Give more support when people are struggling. Sometimes people feel, give me a little time. I can do this myself. I don't need somebody showing me. I want to know that I'm also capable. And we give them less support when they're making progress. Sometimes if somebody's really motivated and they've got the skills, they're really in good shape. But what if they don't have the skills and they're motivated? Well, they need some coaching, okay? When you teach a child a skill, demonstrate it by breaking it up into smaller steps. Raise your hand, although I may not be able to see you, but how many of you have been to our communication workshop that Ann runs? Ann has. And Ann shows us how to draw something, and we're supposed to fold a piece of paper. I think that's what it was, right? And we don't always get it right. And one of the lessons she teaches us is break it into small pieces. Do it in small steps. We can't always remember the whole process. So if you see a child struggling with getting something done, no matter what it is, maybe it's riding a bicycle, maybe it's learning how to drive a car, maybe it's doing their homework, maybe it's even talking to a friend who's not feeling very well. Break it into small steps. When your children are not getting the help they need, find people who can help. There's always someone around if you're creative that you can find. Okay, how do you balance doing things for your child versus letting your child do things for themselves? How do you know when they do or don't get that balance right? So sometimes we'll see something going on and a young person is struggling and we're kind of invested in them doing it right, and we run over and we try to help, but we didn't give them enough time. they didn't ask us for help. So we can ask them. We can say, Bobby, how's it going? I see you're working on your project for school, and the computer isn't always very cooperative. Is there something I can do to help? Let me know. I'll be right here. Let them know you're available. Okay, now we're getting into our piece on advocacy. We're going to start to talk about how being an advocate is a kind of support. How do you respond when you see a child being treated unfairly? Is it different if they're being treated unfairly by friends, kids, teachers, adults, or larger systems, such as the police or schools or others? How do we respond when we see that? I know that one lesson we've learned is to try to make eye contact with the person who's getting hurt or being treated unfairly. Give them a signal. Let them know you're there. Let them know that you're able to come over. And if they give you that signal, give you the eye contact, you can approach gently. We always say gently. We're not trying to create a fight or a battle. And we don't know exactly what's happening until we get there. So we want to be very careful and gentle, and we want to approach them. It's a friend who they're having trouble with. If it's a bullying situation, that's going to be a little bit more difficult. But sometimes it's just a communication breakdown. And we can always offer help. We can say, hey, can I be a mediator? Hey, can I jump in and be a helper? Can you use a helper? So we always start with a question. We want to be invited. We don't want to assert ourselves heavily into a situation if somebody's being treated badly. We don't want a fight to start. If it's an adult, we probably want to be a little bit more careful, depending on who the adult is. If it's somebody we know and trust, then maybe we'll stand by and just keep an eye on what's going on. If it's a problem that somebody's having with a law enforcement officer, we have to really be careful, maybe get permission to approach and say, that's my friend, maybe I can help you guys. I see that you're arguing or that you're not getting along. Okay? So there are many, many ways that we can respond when somebody's being treated unfairly. There are people actually, when it comes to issues of racial bias, when it comes to issues around LGBTQ people, there are many people who have made it their business to intervene. They become an advocate. They become a helper, a guardian, so to speak. Okay. One more question about support before we move a little bit more into advocacy. When has the need to support your kids changed? Either because you needed to back off or because they needed more support in certain areas but not others. How did you adjust? One way to adjust, is to pay attention. Paying attention, expressing care, we talked about that last month, really provides a foundation. If you're expressing care and paying attention, if you're being present without being overly present, you're making an adjustment. And the question is, how does that affect your relationship with the person you're helping? I'm guessing if you're intervening, if you're supporting people in the right way, they're really going to build that relationship with them. It's really going to make a difference. Okay. So we all benefit from people's help. Some people depend on their parents and adults to stand up and speak up for them when they encounter adversity or difficulty. Bullying is a really important time to be able to provide support and be an advocate. And we'll talk about what those steps are in a couple of minutes. Okay. Today we're going to talk about that, and we'll also talk about how the COVID epidemic really provides real opportunities to really develop relationships with others, ironically enough. Okay, one of the powerful ways parents provide support is by advocating, speaking up for them when they need it. Young person comes home and says, I'm having trouble with my teacher in school, or there's somebody bullying me, or I'm not getting it right, or I'm failing a class. And I think it's because I don't understand my teacher or my peers are distracting me. I need a little bit of help. I need an adult to advocate. Will you come down to school and talk to my guidance counselor or maybe my principal and see if we can find a way to help? Sometimes we have to advocate for each other just because things aren't working well or there's a misunderstanding or there are challenges. So an advocate is like a champion. It's like a supporter, a promoter. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Billy Jack. It's a very old movie, and I used to watch it a million times. I actually watched it on Netflix. But it's about a man who a Native American who comes back from the Marine Corps to a school where people are being bullied by people in the community who are trying to hurt the school for some reason. And he becomes an advocate. He's also a very, very good karate expert, and he uses his skills for a while until he also begins to learn that violence isn't the way. You can't change violence with violence. And he goes into retreat and he learns how to be a better advocate. So there may be bigger issues, and he's a guy, it says on the top of the label, I don't know if you can see it, when you need him, he's always there. And so young people need to know that when they need somebody, you're always there. There may be racial or ethnic issues, gender issues, language issues, mental or physical health needs. Sometimes we've been hearing about some horrible things that happen when people are in trouble who are mentally ill and they need somebody to be there. Our police department has a very good service, which is a community support service. They will go to the home if somebody's troubled. They're very well trained, and they can de-escalate a problem. There may be issues around dress or cultural practices. People who come from different practice different spiritual disciplines or come from different cultures. There may be issues around neighborhood and income. A young person I know was feeling ashamed about going to school because his parents were poor and he wanted to get a really nice pair of shoes and didn't have the money. And he wanted somebody to advocate, somebody to help him find a way to be able to feel accepted with other people. So there may be many situations that require advocacy. Speaking up can make a difference, and it can correct the situation. I had a friend who had a car, and the car got repaired, and it was done not very well, and he wanted to go back, and he was really angry with the mechanic, and looked like he was going to get into a fight. And I said, I can come with you, and I'll just say I'm your uncle, and talk to the mechanic about what happened. Or I can help you learn how to advocate for yourself. And that's exactly what we did. He said, would you sit in the car for me in case I get in trouble? The car was still running, but it needed work. And he did a really great job. He learned how to advocate for himself, to be able to stand up and speak for himself. But he also knew that there was an adult there that could step in if he were in trouble. It can be very hard work to advocate for a family member. Sometimes it's very unfamiliar territory. Why can't you fix this yourself? You're smart enough, you're old enough. So I'm going to show you very quickly some tips for advocating. Standing up for young people when they need it. Not when you think they need it, but when they need it. First is to find an ally, somebody you trust. There are many local groups, family networks that'll come to your support. We've heard a lot about people. There are a couple of organizations that work with Latinos, and also with black young people, and they provide support and advocacy. Building a relationship with decision makers, maybe with people in Congress, going to the Roundhouse in Santa Fe and speaking up about an issue that you care about. But we have to be polite, respectful, and courteous. Being prepared, make sure you've got everything, your ducks in a row, your information. Keep some records, bring some materials with you. Number 4 is setting priorities. Know what your goals are if you're asking somebody to advocate, if you're advocating for someone. Focus on achieving what's most important to the young person. You can't do everything at once. Listening. Wow. We're going to talk more about that in another session. But listening is make sure you understand how the people involved are thinking about the issue that you care about. And one way to do that is to say, I have a different opinion about what's going on, and I'd like to talk to you about it. Tell me first where you're coming from. Tell me what you're thinking. So you're opening the door to communication. You're not there to bully the person, of course. Highlight your child's strengths. So if you're advocating with a teacher, a counselor, a lawyer, a probation officer, bring a big picture view. I know what I always do over the years when young people in the system have asked me to come to court or talk to their attorneys, is to always start with what's wonderful about the young person, what their strengths are. Give your child a voice. If they're comfortable, let them speak. Make sure you don't complain. Be calm and clear. Give yourself some breaks. Celebrate wins. And then finally, join with other people who care about the same thing that you do. Many young people are care about things like, the whole school system. They care about the environment. They care about law and order. They care about the conditions in which we live. And so join with other people. There are many, many support groups you can find. Finally, and this is for your chat room, okay? I'm wondering if someone maybe could put this into the chat box, but if not, see if you can remember. One person might be willing to start. Think of a time when somebody stood up for you and helped you get something you needed. What was the situation? Who helped you? What did they do? And how did you feel after they helped you? The other possible question, if you'd like, is think of a time when you stood up for someone and helped them get something they needed. What was the situation? How did you advocate? How did you feel after you helped them? And mention that I worked at a youth center in New York, and we started a program for people with disabilities, young people. And we had over 100 coming after a while, and there was a young lady who was just the sweetest young lady. She had spina bifida, which meant she couldn't speak very well, and she had a computer that she would type into to ask questions or to respond, just like a conversation. And so one day somebody came up to her, and she noticed that people weren't talking to her. They were talking to the helper that was helping her, and as though she weren't even there. And so she talked to her helper and said, could you talk to these people and let them know that they should look at my screen so that we can have a conversation? And it totally transformed what happened. So people started to get it, and that advocacy from that helper changed the whole relationship she had with other people, her peers and adults. And people would come up and they'd say, oh, excuse me, Millie, can I look at your screen so I can see what you're saying? And then they would have a conversation. Simple things can be ways to advocate. Okay, last question, and this is a take-home for you. Who do you know who may have been directly affected by COVID? How might you and your family advocate for them during this difficult time? This is just a take-home question. If you have a pad and you can write this down or type it into your computer or even put it in the chat box to remember. One more time. Who's been affected by COVID? How might you or your family help them by advocating during this difficult time? And remember the 10 steps. All of the material we're sharing with you is going to be on our website. So you can go back there and you can download it and you can copy it. I want to thank you for being with us and remind you that next month, we're going to be continuing our discussion on developmental relationships. Hope you enjoyed tonight's presentation. We love you. Be safe. Bye now. Hi, Ann.
Hi, Don. Wow. Thank you so much, Don. We always learn so much from everything that he shares. And this is such wonderful information. And I would like to remind you, too, that if you go to our website, we have a placemat that Don has created. If you want to do extra discussion, have some extra materials, you can go and find that. We also have some stories on our website, and we've got some karate lessons on our website. So I'd invite you to go and do that. I always like to close with a story. And so I was trying to think of a story about support. And so this is a little unusual time of the year, but we see geese flying all the time. Well, we always see geese up in the air, don't we? So this is a story, it's called the Goose Story, and I love this story. This fall, or any time that you see geese flying, notice that they fly along in a V formation, and you might consider what science has discovered as why they fly that way. As each bird flaps its wings, it creates uplift for the bird immediately following. By flying in that V formation, the whole flock adds at least 71% greater flying range than if each bird flew on its own. Listen to this one. When a goose falls out of formation, it suddenly feels the drag and resistance of trying to do it alone, and quickly gets back into formation to take advantage of the lifting power of the bird in front. When the head goose gets tired, it rotates back in the wing and another goose flies point. Geese honk from behind to encourage those up front to keep up their speed. Finally, and this is just so important, when a goose gets sick or is wounded by gunshots and falls out of formation, 2 other geese fall out with that goose and follow it down to lend help and protection. They stay with the fallen goose until it is able to fly again or until it dies. And only then do they launch out on their own, or then they join another formation to catch up with their group. Now, don't you think if we have the sense of a goose that we might stand by each other like that? And so what do the geese teach us? Well, number one, people who share a common direction and sense of community can get where they are going far more quickly and easily because they are traveling on the thrust of one another. Now, if we had as much sense as a goose, we will stay in formation with those who are headed the same way as we are. And what do we say when we honk from behind? So this story, the author is unknown, but what it made me think of is as parents and as advocates and as support for one another. That if we can be there to help them when they get tired and help encourage them, we can be honking, we can help them when they need help, go and reach out and be there and be that support for them. So I hope you'll go out and do that for all those that are in your immediate path, especially at this difficult time during COVID. So we thank you for being with us tonight. Now next week we always have the best speakers in the world. So next week we have Valentina Smith-Klein, and she is going to talk about Be the Influence. Now, this program is going to be very important because it talks about how we talk to children and teens about alcohol use, if we're starting to suspect that maybe they're starting to use maybe something. And she is the expert on this, so we are going to learn from her next week. And we do not want any of our kids going down this path and ending up dealing with legal problems or future addiction problems. So this is a very timely subject, and we sure hope that you'll be with us. So again, we thank you for being with us. If you're on Facebook and YouTube, this is the end of our program. Now, for the rest of you, we are going directly into our breakout sessions. So now, if you are listening, what we're going to do is we are going to go into breakout rooms. We put 4 people, no more than 4, in a group. We want you to pick a